There has been some kind of disturbance that clearly sets law enforcement and Secret Service into motion.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at 10 infamous assassination attempts. For this list, we're examining the most notorious attempts on the lives of public figures throughout history. What other infamous failed hit jobs did we miss? Let us know in the comments below. Donald Trump. While speaking at a Pennsylvania campaign rally on July 13, 2024, Republican nominee Donald Trump survived an apparent assassination attempt. During the beginning of his speech, gunfire erupted, and Trump fell to the ground as Secret Service agents surrounded him.
We are looking at President Trump. This does not look good. I'm going to be honest with you, from what we can see right here, it looks like they are attempting to move him out, that he may have been injured.
Trump, bloodied from a bullet that pierced his ear, raised his fist defiantly before being rushed off stage. One spectator died during the incident, while the gunman was engaged and killed by the U.S. Secret Service counter-assault team. The attack, the first on a presidential candidate since Ronald Reagan in 1981, came amid a polarized political atmosphere in America. Franklin D. Roosevelt.
At Bayfront Park, while FDR spoke from an open car, 5 revolver shots rang out.
In November 1932, Franklin D. Roosevelt won a landslide election to become the 32nd President of the United States.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
A few weeks before his inauguration, Roosevelt was delivering a speech at the Bayfront Park in Miami, Florida, when he was shot at by Giuseppe Zangara. Zangara, an unemployed bricklayer, fired 6 shots at the then president-elect, but failed to hit his target. It's believed that a woman named Lillian Cross grabbed Zangara's arm after he fired the first shot, preventing him from killing Roosevelt. Instead, he hit 5 other people, including Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak, who later died of his injuries. After the death of Cermak, Zangara was found guilty of first-degree murder and executed by electric chair.
You don't like him for president. That's all. As a man, he's all right. The man is all right, and the president is all right.
Vladimir Lenin. As the leader of the Bolshevik Party, Vladimir Lenin played a vital role in the 1917 October Revolution that saw him become the first head of Soviet Russia.
That man represented a whole epoch. Everything that has been created and is being created in our Soviet land is connected with his name, with his plans.
In 1918, Fanny Kaplan, a disgruntled socialist revolutionary who saw Lenin as a, quote, traitor to the revolution, made an attempt to assassinate him. After the head of state gave a speech at a factory in Moscow, Kaplan fired 3 close-range shots at him.
As we now know from looking at some of these archives, his sister pleaded with him not to give this speech because there had been an assassination earlier in the day of a leading Bolshevik.
Although Lenin survived the attack, he was badly wounded by the bullets and is said to have never fully recovered from his injuries. Kaplan was swiftly arrested and took full responsibility for the incident. She was executed a few days later. Pope John Paul II. Pope John Paul II was the leader of the Catholic Church from 1978 until his death in 2005. 3 years into his reign, John Paul II's life nearly came to an abrupt end in St. Peter's Square in Vatican City.
And the Pope extended his hand to the cameraman. Askew stopped filming to receive the blessing, and a moment later, the shots rang out.
On May 13, 1981, while entering the square to address an audience, the Pope was shot at by Turkish gunman Mehmet Ali Aja. Aja fired 4 times, with 2 of the bullets hitting John Paul II in his torso and left index finger. Luckily, the bullets missed the Pope's vital organs, and he survived after an emergency surgery.
1 bullet narrowly missed the Pope's heart. The motive was a mystery.
Aja was apprehended and sentenced to life imprisonment, but he was pardoned in 2000 at the Pope's request.
Outside, Aja described the former Pope's survival as a miracle.
Charles de Gaulle. Throughout his life, French President Charles de Gaulle is believed to have survived around 30 assassination attempts. Arguably the most infamous of all was the 1962 plot led by French Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Jean-Bastien Thierry. Bastien Thierry was apparently motivated by his disapproval of de Gaulle's decision to grant Algeria its independence. On August 22, 1962, the Air Force officer led a group of 3 shooters to rain down bullets on de Gaulle's motorcade. Miraculously, the president, his wife, and his entourage escaped unhurt.
Several bullets pierced the president's car, one came within an inch of his head, but, as if by a miracle, neither he nor anyone else was hurt.
De Gaulle is said to have mocked them by saying that they shot like pigs. For spearheading the assassination plot, Bastien Thierry was put to death by firing squad.
No French soldier is going to raise his rifle against me.
Malala Yousefzai.
She was shot because she spoke up for the 31 million girls around the world who cannot get an education.
Born to an education activist, Malala Yousefzai became an advocate for girls' rights to education from a young age. She remained outspoken against the Pakistani Taliban's decree against girls attending school. In retaliation, Yousefzai was targeted by a Taliban gunman who shot her while she was on a bus going home from school on October 9, 2012. She was left in a critical state, but was able to fully recover after receiving life-saving surgery in Pakistan and the UK.
It is amazing, truly amazing. I don't know why she survived.
The attack received global attention and condemnation from world leaders. Despite the temporary setback, Yousefzai continued her activism, garnering even more prominence than before. In 2014, she received the Nobel Peace Prize, becoming the world's youngest Nobel laureate. Theodore Roosevelt. The 26th President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt remained in office from 1901 to 1909. In 1912, Roosevelt made a third bid for the presidency, this time under his newly founded Progressive Party. On October 14th, while at a campaign event in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Roosevelt survived an assassination attempt by a former saloon keeper named John Fleming Schrank.
He came all the way from Brooklyn on a mission.
He was obsessed with the Constitution, and he felt that Roosevelt shouldn't run for a third term and that he must be stopped.
Schrank shot the ex-president in the chest, but it failed to hit any vital organs as it was slowed down by an eyeglass case and a 50-page folded document in his pocket. Roosevelt went on to deliver a roaring 90-minute speech before he was eventually taken to the hospital.
He was introduced, and when he walked down, huge standing ovation.
The bullet remained lodged in his chest until his death in 1919. Fidel Castro. It's been said that Cuban revolutionary leader Fidel Castro was the target of no less than 634 assassination attempts throughout his life.
Since the 1960s, the CIA had been after Castro like a coyote trying to catch a roadrunner. In fact, most of their plans sounded like they came straight out of the Acme Handbook.
While that may or may not be an exaggerated figure, some of those plots, orchestrated by the CIA no less, range from elaborate to downright comical. The attempts include, but are not limited to, exploding cigars, poisoned pens, booby-trapped seashells, a contaminated scuba diving suit, and just about every other James Bond contraption you can think of. At one point, the CIA even enlisted the help of the mafia to get rid of Castro. All of these attempts were unsuccessful, and Castro remained a prominent figure in Cuban politics, even after his retirement in 2008.
Despite all the effort the CIA put into killing Castro, the man still outlasted 10 U.S. presidents before stepping down due to health issues.
Ronald Reagan.
Details are very sketchy at this moment. We don't know precisely what happened. We don't know the sequence. First of all, the president is safe.
A few months after his landslide victory against incumbent President Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan very nearly lost his life. The newly elected president was shot by John Hinckley Jr. while leaving the Washington Hilton Hotel on March 30th, 1981. Motivated by a desire to gain the attention of actress Jodie Foster, Hinckley fired 6 shots, only managing to hit him once. Nonetheless, Reagan was seriously wounded, suffering a broken rib, collapsed lung, and internal bleeding.
Just then, I coughed, and I had a handful of bright red, frothy blood.
He was rushed to the hospital and eventually recovered after receiving emergency surgery. One of the other victims of the attack was then Press Secretary James Brady, who suffered significant brain damage that left him with permanent disabilities. Adolf Hitler.
The Allies were closing in, and his own forces were plotting his demise.
Given the despicable acts he orchestrated, it's no surprise that there were multiple plots to assassinate Adolf Hitler, the most infamous being the 20 July plot. About a year before World War II would come to an end, a group of German resistance officers led by Klaus von Stauffenberg plotted to assassinate Hitler using explosives. On July 20th, 1944, von Stauffenberg placed a briefcase with the explosives in a conference room where Hitler was meeting with some military officers. However, before it could detonate, the briefcase was moved further away from the dictator, sparing him of any serious injuries. Hitler's grip on power tightened afterwards, and he ordered the execution of almost 5,000 people, including many involved in the failed plot.